And here we go again. Another edition of Orange and Blue today. Cecil Lammy, Andrew Mason talking about the Denver Broncos and well, trying to figure things out for this team, Mace. I think that's what I'm doing this week is I've watched the film, I've charted the plays, and now I'm watching practice with you and I'm trying to figure out like what is this incarnation going to be? What are their goals for the rest of the year?
Wow, you kind of hit me there. I wasn't expecting to kind of go.
That's a pretty big picture topic if we wanted to.
Yeah.
If we want to do the whole show on just this, we could do the whole show on just this.
I mean, I think your first goal is to win. I mean, it's a 1 week at a time league. I think it's all about just narrowing it to this game. I don't think it's anything beyond that. Now, we obviously are talking about things like, oh, should they, go ahead and have a bad season, put themselves in better draft position, this, that, or the other. What are the implications for Russell Wilson's contract? Can they get out of that? All these are prevalent, but as far as talking about just we're watching practice, you're just seeing a team practice is trying to get back on its feet. That's all it is. I don't think it's anything more than that.
Right. And I know there's been plenty of questions about the locker room. What's the locker room like? It's fine.
They actually yesterday in practice, they left the field. They were in really good spirits.
Yeah.
Like, actually, I thought they were in the best spirits when a practice wrap that we have seen. We don't see practice, but we see like guys walking off the field.
Right.
They seemed livelier than we've noticed over the past few
and
weeks.
I'm okay with that. Mm-hmm. Some people might want them to be angry or upset or pissed off or whatever. Like, I don't want them to be slappies about it, but having them be in a good mood, knowing that it's a 1 week per week league, I like that sort of approach, but I don't sense any sort of division, offense versus defense. And you and I have sensed it before in years past. And I don't sense any toxicity in that locker room yet. And hopefully not ever.
Well, that's sort of where, if you look at the last game in particular, the defense played well and the offense kind of took the night off basically. Right. Mm-hmm. So there shouldn't be offense versus defense because right now everybody's culpable. When you're 1-5, the last couple of games, it's probably been more on the offense than the defense. Even though the defense did allow a bushel of yards to a shaky New York Jets offense, they did shut them down in the red zone. So the defense has some things they hang their hats on going forward. So yeah, it doesn't seem like it's fracturing like that. It seemed the locker room actually seemed to be a pretty good place when we were there, especially yesterday.
Yeah. So hold it together, Broncos, and we'll see what they can do this week against the Green Bay Packers. Friday's show is going to be jam-packed with a bunch of Packers game planning, if you will.
You got to say it like a Wisconsinite. You got to say Packers. The Packers.
Packers?
Yeah.
Packers?
Packers. You got to get you got to get the It's like you're getting in like a Great Lakes accent there. There's a little of that in a Cleveland accent. There's even a Buffalo accent and Detroit accent. You hear,
Packers.
You got
Packers. Okay,
that's terrible.
Sounds like
we're gonna annoy the crap out of people by doing that.
A baby deer calling to its mother. Bleh.
Oh my gosh!
I saw some deer on a walk last week, and I started calling to the baby deer. Because I'm a moron. Anyway, more Marvin Mims, please. I feel like we've said this before, because we have. We might have been the first to say it. I feel like we've talked about this before, because we have. And now the conversation continues, whether you're asking Sean Payton about it or Russell Wilson about it. We've got some beautiful bean footage for you. But please, for the love of God, tell me that as this season goes on, and whatever happens with Jerry Jeudy or Cortland Sutton, that at some point we see more of Marvin Mims.
Look, he should not be fifth among Broncos wide receivers.
Behind Lil Jordan Humphrey.
With all respect to Lil Jordan Humphrey, Humphrey's been going back and forth between the practice squad and the 53. Okay? And Marvin Mims has fewer offensive snaps than Lil Jordan Humphrey. Okay? That is where you have to sit back and reevaluate what formations you're using and how you're using players. All respect to Lil Jordan Humphrey. He shouldn't be playing more snaps than Marvin Mims Jr., right? So how do you get that? Well, it's a good question. Now, Russell Wilson was asked about Marvin Mims Jr. today, or Wednesday, pardon me. And let's roll that beautiful bean footage.
Yeah, we got so many talented players. Obviously, we want Mims to be out there and get out into the field. And I think that the thing that he does is every time he touches the football, it's one of those uh-ohs, because you know that he can score. He's got that kind of speed. Obviously, Jerry too, and Cortland, these guys are real threats once they get the football in their hands and do some things with it. But I think Mims, he's been spectacular. The kickoff return in Miami, some of the deep shots he's caught. He can run all the short routes and all the mid-range stuff too. And so we change personnels a lot, so just getting him in and out and getting him in the game and making plays, and he can block too. He does a lot of great things. So we got all the confidence in him.
I like what Russell Wilson said there. Everything except for one sentence that he had to throw in, and you didn't have to, Russ. Russ was on a roll, right? Is the factor, the danger. I talked about that on Wednesday's show of like, hey, there's nobody that scares you. Marvin Mims scares you, but Russell didn't have to throw in Jerry and Cortland too. No.
Okay.
Those guys don't.
So one habit that Russell Wilson has is answering a question and just getting into naming people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like at one point Wednesday, he started naming people on the Packer defense. Although he got one wrong, he said Gray instead of Gary.
Okay.
That happens. Oh boy. Yeah.
You don't have to include everybody, Russ. You can talk just about Marvin.
I mean, if we asked him a question about the 2011 Wisconsin Badgers, he'd probably rattle off the entire starting offense and defense too. What the heck?
Right.
Just start naming guy. Here's a guy. Here's a guy. It's his habit. It's interesting. But yeah, it's about Mims. And with all respect to Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy, if you're a defensive coordinator, you're game planning, who's the player that scares you?
Right. Tight sphincter syndrome, as you say.
Yes. Who is the one that's going to make it change what you do tactically? It's the threat of Marvin Mims Jr. over the top. And I think we've actually seen the last couple of games more coverages that have been designed to take away Marvin Mims over the top, because Washington game, Miami game, as bad as that was, Chicago game, basically that it ended up being the key play and finishing the comeback, Marvin Mims vertical stretch over the top. We didn't see it against the Jets. We didn't see it against the Chiefs. The coverages were different.
Yeah. How do you make plays? How do you threaten a defense? Use more Marvin Mims. And you run the ball.
And the thing is, even if you can't go vertical stretch, you go underneath. And that's a key thing. You can use him in the screen game, okay? You can do a dump off to him. You can have him, run. You can have him, run a crossing route. There are all these things you can do. It doesn't have to be just the 9 ball. You have options, and it's time to start exploring those branches of the route tree on Marvin Mims Jr.
You'll know this and you'll remember this because it was Andy Reid, Eric Bieniemy, who first started this with Tyreek Hill. They took the go route, which is it's a 9 route, just right down the sidelines. And all they did was make it diagonal, basically, or they'd put Tyreek in motion. So he was running vertical routes at a diagonal from the line of scrimmage, from motion. And that's exactly what Mike McDaniel does with him. And I'm not saying Marvin Mims is Tyreek Hill, but the guy that can stretch the field. And there's more than one ways to do that. The Broncos should be more creative in what they do with Marvin Mims.
Yeah. Well, I think it's also trusting him to do more than just one thing. And if you take away snaps from Jerry Jeudy, okay,
sorry,
so be it. I mean, it's not a static thing where, one person is on the top line, stays on the top line. It's dynamic. It's fluid. It's the NFL, which, as Jerry Glanville would say, stood for not for long, right? Mims has earned more playing time. And if you want to take away a few snaps from everybody, fine. Okay. But he should be playing more than 12 snaps, and he should be getting more opportunities because he is your most dangerous threat in the passing game.
And I believe it was your question to Sean Payton when he pretty much admitted it was him.
Yeah, he's like, we got to find packages to get them out there.
Well, that's you, Sean. That's you finding those Find them. They're there.
It's on. Yeah, it's absolutely on him. Absolutely.
Okay.
It's like I saw this animated thing. It was on Doc Ellis throwing a no-hitter when he was on LSD in 1970.
I actually know that story.
Okay, well, there was an animated video done to the voiceover of Doc Ellis doing an interview for, I believe, NPR. Anyway, there's a moment in there, like in the animated video, where it's like they show him reading the paper. Starting picture, you sucker.
That's you, Sean Payton.
Yeah.
So figure it out.
Figure it out. Yes.
Mm.
Hey, we know he can do it.
Yeah.
And we know he's creative enough to adapt to when one player is playing really well. And with all respect to Jerry Jeudy, he's not playing well right now.
Right.
Marvin Mims is simply a more productive player at this point.
Yeah. So use him. It'll work.
Anyway.
And when it does, we won't say I told you so.
But the capacity to make change, right? We see it on the defensive side.
Yes.
Because
it's a nice segue.
Yes, thank you. I have a little bit of a broadcast background, not as much as you. I ended up stumbling into this part of my career, but I digress. But on the defensive side, a change happened after the Chicago game. Vance Joseph simplifying things pre-snap. We've got some beautiful bean footage. Let's start with Pat Surtain.
Okay.
And talking about things being simplified on that side.
Yeah. He simplified the call some, make us fly around, just being in the right positions at the right time and making plays. And, when you know what you're doing on the defensive side of the ball, that's what helps, guys fly around and be more confident. So I think, just shortening up the play calls a little bit helped a lot.
When did that happen? Was that after the Bears game or after the Jets game that happened?
It was during the Jets where we simplified some things, but also going into the Chiefs week, we ain't try to do anything too dynamic. He just allowed us to play and be where our feet are and work towards our strengths. So, and we play well. So,
I love that from Pat Surtain. Be where your feet are. And you and I've watched enough football to know that defensively, if you're all doing the same page and you're all playing fast, you can make up for those mistakes.
Exactly, and that's something we're seeing. This defense they needed to make things less complex, because what you're seeing is you see a lot of teams that are doing a lot of motion pre-snap. And if you're needlessly, overthinking the plumbing, it's a lot easier to stop up the drain. And that's some of what was going on. Alex Singleton talked a little bit about that. That's the second Singleton clip.
Yeah, that's the whole point of it. Yeah, if you have 2 or 3 calls and some stuff you're supposed to check, some stuff you're not supposed to check. If, like I said, half the field's getting it, half the field's not. Instead, just forget them. Let's play our game of football and, let them figure it out instead of us.
Half the field's getting it, half the field's not. So you're talking about half the defense not knowing what's going on?
Yeah.
No wonder they give up 70 points if they don't know what they're doing.
Right.
Oh, my gosh. Another piece of the puzzle falls into place.
Yes.
When you hear a comment like that from
Half.
Singleton. Half the field doesn't know what's going on. So you're talking about 5 or 6 guys that don't know what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
This is
how we
how,
can name them.
Yeah, this is how you allow in consecutive weeks 35 points, 70 points, 28 points could have easily been 30-some to the Chicago Bears, who came in with the longest losing streak in football at the time. So, yeah. Has it looked better? It's looked better in the red zone the last 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
They're still giving up a lot of yards.
Right.
And that's something to kind of that is a concern. Okay, you're bending but not breaking. I feel like we've gotten back to a lot of the Vic Fangio defense, except that Vic Fangio defense didn't bend as much as the Broncos did, even in the Jets game and the Chiefs game.
Right.
So the other thing is, we know the Chiefs were playing Charlie mess around a little bit in the red zone from time to time.
They were.
Interception, turnover on downs, right?
They're getting too cute with things.
Yeah.
Because they could.
Green Bay is not as good a team with a younger quarterback who's still finding his way in Jordan Love. They can't afford to get cute on things.
Yes.
Yeah.
So keep playing fast. We got to play this last Singleton clip because I think it's beautiful, man.
Well, I can't tell you that. Then it would be. But just, not having too many adjustment stuff. I think a lot of the times, you can have 2 or 3 calls and instead, let's play on our terms. Make one call and we're going to play that call better than whatever they're going to do. And when you're able to do that, you can just execute faster. It might not be the right call at the time for what they run, but if your guys are playing fast, you can usually correct that better than you can half the guys playing one coverage, half the guys playing the other, because then it's just not good.
And there he goes again. half one playing, half playing something
Uh-huh.
else. What this reminds me of, the motions and shifts, got to slow down when I say that, Mace, is our beloved
Shift
friend.
happens.
It does. Paradigm shift happens. I thought of you the other day.
Thank you.
Remember when our friend Peyton Manning took the league by storm because he'd go to the line and be like this, and then defenses would be like, oh my God.
A lot of that meant nothing. It was performative.
Exactly.
It was for show.
Exactly.
It was to try to distract the defense. And you know what? It worked.
It did. Just like these motions and shifts are.
People never figured out what Omaha meant. Omaha? Yes. Beyond it being a city in Nebraska. People never caught on to that.
And a nice production company.
Yeah, very successful one. One that might finance him buying a team someday.
Maybe.
Yeah.
One that needs to finance my comic book company. Anyway.
I wonder if they'd finance a business idea I have.
Maybe.
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 I'm not asking for much.
Yeah. Hey, and
relatively speaking.
We ask because we care. Anyway, like simplify the defense. Don't pay attention to as many motions of shifts. Obviously, you have to do some adjustment when there's a motion. That's what motion's all about. But don't get crazy with it and confuse yourself when half your defense is playing something else.
Yeah, and I think to Vance Joseph's credit that he did make this switch. I mean, this doesn't mean the Broncos are going to be a great defense. They're still very susceptible up front to the run. But can they be serviceable? Do they have a puncher's chance now going forward? Yeah, even though the bend but don't break thing usually ends up in breaking eventually.
Yeah, bending is breaking.
Yeah.
Little by little.
Snap. Yeah.
There you go.
And then it goes.
So
hopefully it won't go to 70 points like it did back in week 3.
Speaking of that, can I maybe speak out of turn?
Okay.
Because you and I have different approaches in the media room. I'm a little more, quiet, shockingly. And you have some conversations. I overheard you talking to some of our friends, maybe some I can't even say their names, but like some of our friends in the media about the 70-point game. And you were saying like, take the 70-point game out. And so I didn't catch it all because I had my headphones in, but I did hear you talking about like the 70-point game for this Broncos defense. And if you take that out or at least make it half, cut those numbers in half, because that 70 points is really skewing the numbers for the Broncos defense. Not to say that they're good or better than you think, but having a 70 burger dropped on you definitely adjusts those, because we always look at season-long stats, right? So what was the conversation? I didn't catch it.
Anyway, I was going by per possession.
You're a social butterfly.
I don't know about that. So I was going by per possession data, okay? And I said, if you took the Dolphins game out, the Broncos defense would still rank 31st in the league in terms of allowing scores on drive, 51.6% of drives ending in scores, as opposed to being 32nd. Touchdown rate, they improved to 25th, 25.5%. That's better, but it's not great. And in terms of net yardage allowed per possession, the Broncos, even if you took the entire Miami game out, they'd still be dead last. Okay. So that's the thing to consider. Yes, the extreme nature of week 3 in Miami was an outlier, but it's not like this was a good defense in the other 5 games when viewed as a collective. It's not. So there you go.
There you have it. From Andrew Mason.
Sorry to be gloomy Gus here, but we just keep it real.
Yes.
Seek
the truth.
Data does not lie.
And speak the truth. And film definitely doesn't lie. And this team on film, not as good as you want. Orange and Blue today, presented by Sean Ponda. Life without Dulcich, our final topic today. And we really like Greg Dulcich as a person. We really like Greg Dulcich as a player. The potential, dirty, filthy word, that he has is extraordinary. It's outstanding. He could easily be a Pro Bowl weapon for this team if he was ever going to stay healthy. And apparently his body just breaks too often. And I think the team rushed him back. That's my opinion, Mace. I think he should have debuted against the Packers. I would have felt much better about that from another hamstring injury. And then the hamstring is aggravated against the Chiefs. So, yeah, life without Dulcich is something I guess the Broncos are just getting used to.
Yeah. At this point, assuming he's going to miss Sunday's game, at that point, he will have missed as many games as he's played. And then you extend beyond that. it is reaching the stage because we're talking about, let's go through the hamstring injuries here. OTAs last year. Comes back in camp, hamstring injury during training camp. Deals with that into the regular season, plays 10 games, and then hamstring injury number 3 on Christmas Day against the Rams. Hamstring injury number 4 in week 1 this year. Hamstring injury number 5 against Kansas City last Thursday night. At some point, you have to say, you can't rely on Greg Dulcich. It's nice when he can contribute. You hope he can. But if you're the Broncos, unless something changes here in the next 3 months, you can't go into your 2024 season and say, Greg Dulcich is our primary plan at tight end, because the hamstring just isn't showing any sign of holding up.
Right.
Yeah. Sorry, but it's like Jake Butt all over again. Jake couldn't stay healthy.
Yeah.
With a knee. And there you go.
With a great player with tremendous upside, just like Greg Dulcich. And they had a plan for him. That's the most frustrating thing as well. Because you and I would debate, and I was like, well, what were you going to do with Dulcich? And it's a tell when he's on the field. But what Sean Payton wanted to do was make him like his Jimmy Graham. And he just can't. If you're not available, availability is a skill. One that Greg Dulcich doesn't yet have.
Some would say the best ability is availability. Others would say the best ability is dependability.
Is availability dependability? Not really. I mean, you can be available. Doesn't mean you're good.
Yes. You can be available and not dependable.
Right.
It's like, as was said on a Beavis Butthead episode, the best nation in the world. Donation.
You never know what 90s reference you're going to get on this show.
You know.
All right.
Anyway, but yeah. And that's something Greg Dulcich doesn't have, unfortunately. And it's tough. I mean, because we've seen the flashes. Russell Wilson talked about him yesterday at his press conference. It's been there. He stretches the field. He can do things short, intermediate as well. He's got a lot of versatility to his route running. The blocking hasn't quite developed as they'd hoped, but it doesn't matter if he can't stay on the field. And so it's looking more and more like adding another item to be added to the Broncos laundry list of needs that you're probably not going to be able to cross everything off in one off season. It's tight end.
Yep.
So
here we go. So it goes for the Denver Broncos preparing for the Green Bay Packers in week 7. He's Andrew Mason. You follow him on socials at Mace Denver. Are you on TikTok too?
Yes, but I'm not on there very often.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't done that yet.
I posted, the last TikTok I posted was in Kansas City on New Year's Eve.
Okay.
Looking at the array of barbecue sauces that were on display for sale at Joe's Kansas City.
Okay.
And there are a bunch, many not from Kansas City even, but you could find all the Kansas City ones. You could find your Arthur Bryant's and your Gates.
Right.
And Jack Stack and that kind of thing.
Okay.
Played all the hits.
There you go.
Yeah. I could use some barbecue sauce right now.
You're making me hungry. It is Orange Blue today.
Maybe like some
presented
barbecue
by
sauce tacos. Like, ooh, you know what? I just got an idea.
What's that?
Like barbecue enchiladas. So you do you smoke the chicken or whatever meat that you want. And then you put a little barbecue sauce in them along with the cheese and all that. Because I've been doing green chili enchiladas a couple of times lately, but I think a barbecue enchilada might be something different.
I think that sounds good.
Start melding some flavors here. I like it.
It's like a flavor explosion. I think that was Accepted. You probably never saw that. Well, you might have seen that movie.
What?
The Accepted?
No.
You never saw it?
It's not in.
It had Jonah Hill in it when he was young and still fat.
That one is not in my zeitgeist. No, sorry.
The Ask Me About My Wiener one, you didn't see that?
No.
No? Okay.
There's some holes. Some holes started to develop when I really started diving into work. Yeah. I didn't have as much time to consume pop culture as I did in the 90s.
Yeah.
So
that's why you get your 90s references.
I'm trying to catch up, but take some time.
Okay.
I'm basically narrow focused. I mean, I watch Star Wars, but I'm behind on that, right?
So, you haven't even watched Ahsoka.
Stop it. Stop reminding me. Okay? I'm going to get there.
When you do, tell me so we can talk about it.
All right, fine. But we're not going to be able to talk about it on the show because people are like, oh, I haven't watched it. I believe, by the way, in a 6-month statute of limitations on watching.
Yeah, if it's a 6 month. I haven't seen Game of Thrones. Well, I'm just going to tell you it ends anyway. I'm going to tell you everything.
Everyone dies?
Daenerys burns down everything.
Yeah, I was like, doesn't everyone die? Isn't there multiple instances of Game of Thrones where everybody dies?
Everybody dies.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I watched like 2 episodes. It was too vivid for me. Like there's a level of like gore that is just too much.
Okay.
And I guess like some people I know are surprised that I wasn't into Game of Thrones. I don't know. I guess I'm more of a sci-fi space fantasy type of nerd than a, medieval warlocks and things like that kind of nerd,
Although Lord of the Rings.
I'm not, I'm okay on that. I'm not nerdy on that.
Not nerdy on that?
No.
Me neither.
No.
Just saying.
I'm not a Tolkien nerd. Some are. I'm not.
Yeah. I have since I was 6th grade when I read The Hobbit.
Yeah.
I loved it.
It's fine. It's just like not something. It's not something to which I return. Right. That's the thing. Like I'll keep going back and back and back to Star Wars. I don't do that with the Tolkien stuff.
Okay.
So anyhow.
You keep coming back to Orange and Blue today, and we appreciate you.
Nice.
So do the YouTube things, like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you never miss a vid. He's Mace, I'm Cease, OBT is a BFD. We appreciate you. Thanks. Stay tuned and stay frosty.